Chika tossed and turned aimlessly beneath the sheets, unable to sleep. She reached for her phone, which was on the nightstand beside her bed, to check the time. It was 2:15 in the morning. The thought of Jeremiah lingered in her mind, and she couldn't shake it off. She couldn't bear the thought of him feeling unloved, as every fiber of her being yearned for him. How could he ask her to do something so ridiculous and difficult when he already knows her stance on the matter? Chika wondered, letting out a heavy sigh. Why is he talking about sex all of a sudden? Chika muttered, sighing again, this time loudly. Chika, what's wrong? Were you sent here tonight to disrupt my sleep? Her sister Diana exclaimed in frustration. You have been tossing and turning all night, and now you're sighing. What's going on with you? Don't you remember you're not the only one in this room? Chika ignored her sister's outburst and retreated into her thoughts. She didn't really blame Diana, if only her sister knew what was on her mind. Jeremiah was the man who made her world go round. Everything had been going well until yesterday. Her mind drifted back to how it all began. Jane, as she fondly called Jeremiah, was a regular customer at her mom's shop. Her mom sold all kinds of clothing materials at New Market in Aba, a huge clothing hub. Jane was managing one of its boxy shops, which explained his frequent patronage of their shop. His boss specialized in plain and patterned materials on one of the streets in Aba. Chika stayed in the shop with her mom because her mom had had issues with strangers stealing from her under the guise of sales girls. Chika became the recruit to fill that position. Good day, miss. A manly voice greeted Chika one afternoon in the shop as she was engrossed in checking the account books. She looked up to see a fine young man, tall and well-dressed in a shirt and trousers. He was dark-skinned and well-built. Good day to you, sir. How may I help you? Chika asked expectantly. Mommy China, it seems like she's a newbie, James said, referring to Chika's mom who was standing a few feet away. Yes, she's my daughter. She started work this week, Chika's mom replied. It's quite obvious because she would have known me. I must say, you have a beautiful daughter, James told Chika's mom, flashing Chika a charming smile that accentuated his dimples. Chika blushed and quickly looked away so he wouldn't notice. She left him and her mom to conduct their business. Chika marveled at how one man could possess such attractive physical features. She even found herself praying that God would shield the women he might entice with those alluring threats. Just then, a tiny voice in her mind whispered, what if he became one of them? Chika swiftly rebuked the voice, dismissing the thought as she focused on her work. God forbid, I'm not the type to be easily swayed by a man's looks, no matter how captivating, she thought to herself. One bright Wednesday, Chika was in the shop as usual, counting a bundle of notes. She felt a familiar gaze on her, the same eyes that had been stealing glances at her. When she looked up, their eyes met and he quickly looked away. Why do you keep staring at me every time you come here? Chika asked Jane as he approached to pay for his goods. You're beautiful and I just can't help myself, he said. His eyes locked on hers to gauge her reaction. Chika smiled wryly at his words. That's a bit cliched, but thanks anyway. I've been wondering, are you here on the holiday or do you actually work here? He asked. I'm helping my mom out by filling in as a sales girl since she can't trust others anymore. And I'm not in university yet, Chika explained. As she returned to counting the notes, she hoped he had taken the hint and leave, but he seemed in no hurry. Why aren't you in university yet? He asked, taking a seat in front of her. From what I've seen, finances don't seem to be a problem for your family. Well, I've been seeking admission to the University of Lagos, but it's not forthcoming yet. This is the fourth time I have taken the JAMB exam just to get into that school. Why not consider another university? It doesn't have to be University of Lagos, he suggested with a smile. There are other reputable schools in Nigeria where you can study comfortably and still achieve your goals. Thanks for the advice, Mr. Jeremiah, but University of Lagos is my top choice, Chika replied. I've always dreamed of studying in the West, away from the East. My desire to be a flight attendant, traveling and exploring the world, fueled this aspiration. In fact, I'd love to take a flight on my first day of school to experience the thrill of being up there. Chika was knocked back to reality by James' boisterous laughter. Taking a flight on your first day? Isn't that a bit too ambitious? Chika frowned at his insensitive remark. The last I checked, it was my dream, not yours, she retorted. Alright. I'm sorry for making such a comment. However, one striking thing you said is your desire to become a flight attendant. It would suit you well. You speak eloquently and your speech is articulate and polished, he commented, his dreamy eyes conveying his point in a way that left Chika feeling slightly giddy. She blushed at the compliment. Thank you, she said softly. You're welcome, Jem replied. I'd love to hang out sometime and continue our conversation. Talking to you has been really enjoyable and I think I could learn a thing or two from you. Chika looked up to find Jem gazing at her with an anxious expression. She couldn't help but notice how effortlessly he wielded words, his charm and charisma undeniable. But was this his way of asking her out? Whatever is going through that beautiful head of yours is far from what I meant, Jem quickly clarified, interrupting her thoughts. Just hanging out as friends, nothing more. Chika smiled, feeling a sense of relief. Alright, friends it is, she replied, her smile widening. Jem asked for her number and Chika obliged, entering her phone digits into his phone. Be careful who you share the smile with, he said with a wink as he stood up to leave. You don't want to captivate weak men like me. Chika felt a flutter in her heart at his words, and she couldn't help but grin widely. How can someone be so charming? She thought to herself, her mind whirling with excitement. As the weeks turned into months, Jem and Chika's friendship deepened. They began spending more time together. Their relationship was typical of any normal friendship until Chika started to see him in a different light. Given the circumstances, it's understandable that she would develop feelings for him. He would call her every day and they had talked for hours. He made sure she had eaten, that she was doing well, and he didn't take kindly to anyone who offended her. While these actions were characteristic of a good friend, Chika started to attach more significance to them. She began to perceive Jem differently, feeling a thrill whenever they were together and experiencing pangs of jealousy when she saw him interacting with other women. As a result, she became increasingly clingy and emotionally attached to him. Chika recognized that she was overstepping the boundaries of their friendship. Friends were supposed to support each other in life's journey, but Chika's focus had shifted. All she cared about was capturing Jem's attention and pleasing him, even if it meant sacrificing her time, resources, and her mother's trust in her. It was Jem's birthday, and Chika had come to his one-room self-contained apartment to celebrate with him. How about we take this to another level? Jem asked out of the blue. Take what to the next level? Your birthday celebration? Chika asked, her confusion evident. He chuckled softly. No, sweetie. I mean our friendship. I have wanted more from the start, but I didn't want to rush things. I care about you deeply, Chika, and my love for you grows stronger every day. What do you say? Chika's heart skipped a beat as she thought, so I wasn't alone in this. She had already known her answer for a long time, and every part of her was eager to say yes. However, a tiny voice in her head reminded her of her decision not to get involved with anyone until she was halfway through pursuing her dreams. At just 19, she hadn't even started chasing her aspirations yet. Chika had finished her high school at 16, skipping a grade and taking her high school certificate exam in SS2 due to her exceptional intelligence. She had also taken her first JAMB exam that year. Despite her excellent scores, the University of Lagos had rejected her 4 times, which she attributed to bad luck. Chika had decided not to fall for anyone until she was more established in her pursuits. Yet, here she was, being swept off her feet by the charming man in front of her, and she wasn't even hesitant to say yes. This must be love, she thought. Jem loves me and I love him too. She felt that life was offering her a chance at true love, and it would be foolish not to seize it. But was it really about her being wise, or were her feelings clouding her judgment? Chi, aren't you taking too long with an answer that's just a yes or no? Jem asked, holding her hands. His question brought Chika back to reality. She hadn't realized she had been lost in thought for so long. Well, you have been an amazing guy, and I don't have a choice but to say yes, she told him, throwing caution to the wind. Right now, my future is right in front of me, and that's Jem, she thought, quoting the Bible advice not to worry about tomorrow. Wow, thank you, baby. This is the best birthday gift ever, Jem exclaimed, scooping her up in his arms and spinning her around. Chika's relationship with Jem blossomed, and things seemed to be going smoothly. Perhaps dating Jem at this point in her life wasn't a bad decision after all, or so she thought. As they grew incredibly close, the thought of parting with him became unbearable for Chika. Consequently, she decided to attend Abia State Polytechnic in Aba instead of her dream school, the University of Lagos, despite having been accepted. Chika, what's gotten into you? Her mother asked, shocked. How can you change your mind about attending a school you've spent 4 years trying to get into? Now that they have offered you admission, how can you withdraw your interest? Chika's sister Diana chimed in with a teasing tone. Mom, I think she's under some sort of spell. Our village people have remembered her. Chika attempted to explain. Mom, don't you want me to be close to you? I don't want to go to a faraway place anymore. Why spend money on transportation and accommodation when I can study here? Besides, I've changed my mind about being a flight attendant. I'll be studying public administration instead, she said, fabricating a reason. Chika saw the stunned expressions on her mother's and sister's faces and felt a pang of guilt. She knew she was deceiving them but couldn't reveal the true reason behind her change of heart, or they would be furious. What? You didn't change your mind all these years and now you suddenly have? How can you compare Polytechnic to a university? Chika, you must attend that University of Lagos, Diana protested. Chika's demeanor shifted. She pretended to be angry and tearful. Isn't it my life? Why are you forcing me to do something I don't want to do? Did anyone dictate what you did during your time? Don't try to play the detector with me. Her sister was about to lash out at her for being disrespectful, but their mother intervened. Leave her alone, it's her decision, she said. Turning to Chika, she said, Chika, we can't dictate for you when it comes to your career, but I hope you know what you're doing. Thank you, Mom, Chika said, making a face at her sister, who was still tilting with anger. Chika told Jem about her decision to stay in Aba. He was happy and mentioned that he never bought the idea of her attending school in a far-off place, saying, school is school. In reality, Jem's concern was that he might lose Chika to another guy. He believed that if Chika attended Unilag, she would meet someone better than him and leave him for that person due to the distance. Things were going well until one day Chika visited Jem's house. They were conversing normally until he started touching her sensually. He was about to unbutton the shirt Chika was wearing to explore her bare body when she stopped him. What do you think you were doing? She asked. Isn't it quite obvious? She responded. He responded as he slowly and gently caressed her slightly exposed lap. I want you, babe. His eyes conveyed his emotions. No, Jem, this is wrong. We discussed this. It's a sex-free relationship. We will have it at the right time in marriage to our satisfaction, Chika implored him. Marriage is still a long way off. The emotions are building every day and I can no longer suppress them. Just thinking of you makes me want to have intimate encounters with you. Moreover, I know friends who do it and it doesn't affect their relationships. They tease me about never having touched my partner before. Wait a minute, Jem. Have you been discussing a relationship with your friends? How could you do that? No, babe, I haven't. It was a conversation that led to that. Please, babe, let's do this. It will help us bond more. If you love me that much, you won't rigidly protest this. See, a mere touch of my hands on you is stirring you up, indicating you want this too. I'm human. It's normal to react to your touch. Just enjoy it for now. We are not getting married anytime soon, and you know it. It's still years down the line, and you're expecting me to endure until then, when I get to see, talk, and spend time with you almost every day. Since you agreed to date me at this point in your life, even knowing we are not ready for marriage, you should have prepared for this. He was getting impatient and Chika could sense it in his voice. I'm not changing my mind, Jen. I'm not falling for your sweet talk this time, Chika said, turning her back to him. This only shows how much you care about me. Suit yourself. He stood up from the sofa where he was sitting with her and went outside, dismissing her. How could he say such a thing when everything I've ever done was to please him because I care so much about him? Why is he prioritizing sex over every other sacrifice I've made for him? That's the harshest thing to say to someone who has only loved him. Chika stood up and left in despair, feeling betrayed. That night, Chika didn't sleep, thinking about the whole episode. Her sister couldn't help but yell at her for disturbing her sleep. It didn't take long before Chika succumbed to James' constant persuasion. She had to do it so that he wouldn't feel like she loved him less and to let him know he wasn't alone in the emotional saga. She, too, had been having fantasies about making out with him and the crazy things she wanted to do with him in bed. James' proposal to make it a reality slowly weakened her defenses. She couldn't fight alone and he wasn't making it easier with his deliberate, sensual touches that mesmerized her body each time she visited him. Chika knew some people might term her as stupid for still visiting him when she could be more advantaged in the fight if she avoided places that fostered being alone with him. However, her obsession for him wouldn't allow her to stay away. The thought alone was heart-wrenching for her. Chika got it wrong when she assumed it would be a one-time event, or so he made her believe. As time went on, it became a norm in their relationship. They couldn't stay together without getting entangled in their lust for each other. They couldn't even talk for 15 minutes without the atmosphere becoming tense. When did they come to this? It wasn't like that before, Chika asked herself one day. There were many things she wanted to discuss with him, things she wanted to know about him, and decisions they should make. At least that was what the dating period was meant for. However, Chika found out that at the end of the day, they didn't really achieve that. James was always impatient and took little or no interest in what she said to him. He always had a way of switching it back to emotional talks. His hands were always on her when they talked. He just couldn't wait to get under her skirt. Even when they talked over the phone, it was always about how deeply he missed her, how much he wanted her, and the things he had loved to do with her. So for the twice a week Chika visited him, their conversations, phone calls, and chats revolved around sex. Chika hated the fact that their relationship was turning out this way. She missed the good old days. She felt like Jem now loved her for the sex and not for her. Chika wanted Jem to be more committed to the relationship. She craved his attention, which was unconsciously gradually withdrawing. She started overlooking his excesses, which she would normally react to, all because she was afraid of losing him to another. The red flags were glaring at her face, but she chose to neglect them. She couldn't just bring herself to leave him. She had given him her all. Jen, what's wrong with us? Everything has changed about our relationship, Chika asked him one Sunday evening as they strolled down the street. Jem stopped in his tracks and faced her. What has changed? A lot, Jem, a lot. You said the sex will bond us more, but I think it's changed everything. To me, it has drifted us apart. Jem looked at her with a confused expression. You can't be serious, Chika. Oh, haven't you noticed the rifts in our relationship? Haven't you noticed that you have been acting busy with me? That you don't check on me the way you used to? We don't have normal conversations void of sex or intimate talks. The friendship part of this relationship is missing. But Chika, you know I have been busy. I have a lot of tasking matters demanding my attention. I don't want to work for someone again. I need to get my own shop and start my own clothing business. Didn't you have this dream when everything was okay between us? What's so new about it? We used to discuss this kind of thing together to know the way forward. Why are you making it look like I'm stopping you from fulfilling your dream? That I'm taking up your time? Or is it because you've gotten what you wanted? Don't tell me it was about sex all along. No, baby. How can you say such a thing? You know I love you. Don't patronize me, Jen. If you say you love me, what has changed? Or is this your own definition of love? Chika couldn't stop the tears from rolling down her cheeks. Babe, you are embarrassing me. What's all this now? I think I'll have to go back to my house. It seems like you are not in the right mood this evening. Let's talk some other time. He quickly pecked her on the cheek and left her standing on the side of the road without looking back. This wasn't what Chika wanted. Was this the man she turned her back on her dream for? He's assuring her that everything was okay when she knew it was not. Years down the line, Chika got married to a handsome man. He was everything she wanted in a man, and when she thought about it now, she wondered what she had seen in Jem that made her waste her time, her dream, resources and energy on him. At that time, she thought he was the best because she was blinded by infatuation and maybe immaturity. She was only 19 then, quite too early for someone to delve into the unknown world of romance when she knew she wasn't getting married soon. That was why they couldn't control it or manage it when the emotions built up, because they awoke love before it pleased. Now, Chika thinks that anyone who isn't yet ready for marriage shouldn't commit to anyone yet. Feeding your emotions and expecting them not to react at some point is the dumbest thing ever. Experience taught her better. Most of her friends thought she would get married to Jane because of the love mumbo jumbo that existed between them, but they parted ways. Things went really bad and they went their separate ways. Chika is married but is now having issues with her sex life with her husband. Jen made her too experienced in that aspect, and her husband couldn't satisfy her. Each time they made love, she unintentionally envisioned Jen because they had done a lot of crazy things together, and her husband fell short of it. A part of her was still with Jen, and she hated it. People say sex brings about soul ties, and she wondered how true that was. Now she understood. She remembered the scripture, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 16 to 20, a friend once quoted to her when advising her against her relationship with Jem. She went back and read it using the Message Bible version, and reality dawned on her. This passage addressed exactly what she had gone through and was still going through. Why didn't she listen then? She was dying in silence and couldn't tell her husband what she was going through. Depression was slowly setting in. No, I need to see a therapist, Chika exclaimed. See a therapist? What for? Chika's husband asked, looking confused. She stared at him in shock, realizing she had said that out loud. Oh, it's nothing, darling. It's a line from a movie I watched. I was just musing over it. She lied. Okay. God, what's wrong with me? She cried out aloud. The end. Thank you for watching the Masterpiece Stories. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.